What did you call me?
What?
What did you just call me?
I called you sir.
No, you did not call me sir. You called me the N-word, right?
I did. I believe I did call you the N-word.
We all know the N-word. It's a word that can mean friend and enemy, be used by racists and even by black people as a form of endearment.
Larry Wilmore, who addressed the president with the word at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
So, Mr. President, if I'm going to keep it 100, yo, Barry, you did it, my...
This strange dichotomy has split the word into two. One ends in an A, and the other ends in a hard R.
You're a f***ing idiot. You're ignorant. So you really are.
But where did this split in the word come from? The N-word originated from the Latin term niger, which was originally a word to describe dark skin. There are a few countries in Africa named after this. This Latin term seems to have been modified in America when the slave trade began. However, the negative connotations did not start then. Black Americans would use the term in protest against the oppression they faced as slaves back in the 1700s.
This word, which existed before it became a slur, but it becomes a slur at a very distinct moment in U.S. history, and that's as large numbers of black people begin to become free, starting in the North in the 1820s.
This spiteful use of the word continued for hundreds of years in the West until its golden age in the 1900s, where it became commonplace to see the N-word on books, labels, and song titles. That was a time when racism was commonplace, and African Americans had to fight for their right to be treated as a fellow human being. Nowadays it has become common through the teaching of American history to refrain from using the N-word in its original form. This precedent set in America has spread throughout the West, making the word seem forbidden to people who are not black. It was only until recently, after decades of protesting and fighting for progress, that this occurred, and the N-word transformed into what white people call it today and how I've been referring to it in this video. The N-word. Today, the N-word is mostly said by people of African American descent. It has been cemented as part of black identity. Shedding its hard R has in turn shed the hateful nature of the word. Some may even think this new N-word isn't racist and is instead a positive term that should be embraced in culture. But then, why can't white people say it? As long as they don't say it in an offensive way, what's the problem? That's the problem. How can people know if a white person who says the N-word isn't being offensive? Is it context, whether they're quoting a rap lyric? The unfortunate truth about the N-word is that the negative connotations of it were undeniably created by white people. If the N-word kept its original Latin meaning for dark skin, there would be no problem with it. But due to the American history of slavery and centuries of using the N-word at the expense of black people, it is very hard to separate the negative connotations of the word when a white person says it. This is also hindered by the fringe white communities who still bear the same resentment from the old days towards black people. These factors make it difficult to welcome the wider world into using the new N-word, both for black people and other groups themselves. A lot of people want nothing to do with the N-word because they recognize that there are some words they are simply not allowed to say. But completely forbidding other groups from saying the N-word while African Americans continue to say it seems unfair. Nobody holds the Asian community, who have a slur of their own, in a similar regard, nor have they to the Arabic community, who for a time were hated even more than black people. If any one of these people were to say the N-word in public, they would expect to experience some backlash, but not quite as severe as if a white person said it. This is because the N-word has found its own special place, even among swear words. Swear words and profanities have their own grip on culture, not because they are bad per se, but because they have a perception of being forbidden. Once upon a time, calling someone a fool was insulting, while calling somebody the R-word was a medical diagnosis. However, as time changes, now fool is a simple description and the R-word is an ableist remark. Curse words are dictated by culture, and culture is what gives these words meaning. Nobody would want to say the N-word if it didn't have any cultural relevance. The meaning of curses varies based on the words itself and its context. There are aggressive swear words, words used to intentionally hurt people.
Swear words are used in a much wider range of circumstances, such as abusive swearing, where these words are used in a metaphorical sense to intimidate or humiliate someone.
The N-word ending in a hard R is one of these. But there is another type of swear word, an idiomatic swear word. These are not meant to hurt people, but rather to reaffirm relationships and friendships.
Well, one step even more abstract from abusive swearing is idiomatic swearing. where it's completely unclear what those words are actually doing in those expressions. Well, what they're doing is they're being used simply for their ability to ping people's emotion buttons, to arouse the listener's attention, to assert a macho or a cool pose, or to express informality, to say this is the kind of circle in which we don't have to watch what we say.
This is what the new N-word has become in the black community. The N-word isn't the only word that has this dichotomy. There is the B-word, which can be used by female friend groups jokingly, but is also a harsh form of misogyny when said by a man to a woman. The reason why men can't say this word without offending women is because when a man says it, it is assumed to be aggressive. However, when a woman says it towards her own friend group, it is assumed to be platonic. This is the same with the N-word. If a black person says it, it is assumed friendly. However, if a white person says it, it is assumed that they are racist. It makes sense why other groups of people would want to use the N-word. This word is a big part of the black community, and the black community is an influential part of culture. People who are invested in rap, basketball, and football see black people use this term and want to be part of the group. The issue is, there are still a lot of people who see this word as aggressive and abusive when said outside of the black community. The only way other groups would be able to say the N-word is if, as a culture, we all progressed forward and forgot the dark past of the N-word, and instead embraced this new N-word as something endearing and positive. However, if we forgot the N-word's troubled past, wouldn't we lose interest in it? How about this word? It has become a normal term in culture today. However, in the past, it used to be more forbidden. Only used by adolescent and young adults to bring sensual thoughts into reality. Nowadays, it has lost its grip on young adults and is used more as a boring term for reproduction that high schools cringe at being taught. If racism was forgotten, black people would welcome giving the N-word towards the wider community. It may even one day become the new buddy or pal, but then it just wouldn't be cool anymore. It's pretty superficial to restrict a word based on skin color. I have dark skin, does that mean I can say it? Even though I have no relation to American history, but being an immigrant son, I know the feeling of not being welcomed. That feeling is not unique to African Americans. I personally believe the African American community should open up the N-word to people who understand its meaning. The black community turned the hated N-word into a sign of friendship. So why can't they welcome other people into that friendship? Sure, when a white person says the N-word, it feels strange. But if that white person is sincere and shows no aggression to black people, then why can't they say it? You'd be lying if you said that there were no black people using the N-word as an insult towards other black people. Why not give white people the benefit of the doubt if they say the N-word in an endearing way? At the end of the day, there's an abundance of problems in this world. It's your decision if you want the N-word to be one of them.